Not going to hold you guys up, and let's go ahead and get into the first topic, guys. Now, the first topic is about our boy Joe Biden and the G7 summit and everything that was going on there, where it says isolating China will be impossible and dangerous. It's interesting that they say it would be dangerous. This is from an analyst as the G7 summit gets tough on Beijing. Yeah, we hear you, man. Now, it says the G7 issued its strongest ever message to China over the weekend, but an analyst warned that isolating Beijing is impossible and dangerous. Now, it says the world's largest 7 economies agreed at a summit in Hiroshima, Japan. What's up, man? To de-risk and diversify their supply chains away from China amid concerns of economic coercion. As you guys know, obviously the U.S. and China are at odds. You trying to touch the keys? The U.S. and China are at odds and everything like that. And this is very similar. Don't touch it. But the U.S. and China are obviously at odds. They're ops, as you could say, and this is kind of similar to what China was having in their meeting in kind of the Asian Pacific, where basically they were kind of saying, hey, we're going to, weaken the U.S. dollar. We're going to kind of cut off some units of trade. We'll be there to provide, whatever you may lose by cutting off the United States. And in return, that will weaken the U.S. dollar and strengthen I'm not sure what the Chinese is. Is it the yuan? Yuan? I think it might be the yuan. You guys can always correct me for sure. So it's interesting that the G7 summit, some of the strongest economies being there, are looking to actually cut supply chains from China, which would be detrimental. And I'm sure the Chinese people would not be happy with that at all. Now, it says there's been growing awareness among Western nations that their economies rely heavily on China. Yeah, I mean, in the United States, not as much anymore, but it used to be pretty much every product that you would buy. If you looked at it, any teddy bear, get Josie some toys or something like that, what would you see on the tag? Made in China. Now, it says the C-19 pandemic shed light on the intricacies of critical supply chains, but the ongoing war in Ukraine has further exacerbated this reality. In a joint statement after the summit, the Group of 7 said our policy approaches are not designed to harm China, nor do we seek to thwart China's economic progress and development. At the same time, we recognize that economic resilience requires de-risking and diversifying. So, they're kind of trying to save face, and everything like that. It's not, and I do believe that. I do believe that there aren't necessarily bad intentions, but they know that if China gets too much power, too much economical power, which they kind of already have, as they are either the first or the second biggest economy in the world, they're basically kind of like diversifying your portfolio. It's almost like if you have 100% of your stock in one company and that company goes under, your entire stock or your entire portfolio is now destroyed. But if you diversify, you get money from here, you get money from there, you get money from there. Then if one goes down, it's not as big of a deal. So that's kind of the, approach that they seem to be taking. Now, it says in the wake of the G7 announcement, China summoned the Japanese ambassador and ordered companies to stop buying from American chip maker Micron. So China, that's a direct economical attack on the United States that we got here. I'm gonna try it. Giuliano? Yeah. Nossi, vice rector for China, and Polentico di Milano. I'm going to try it. You guys know I'm always going to try the words, and that's how you get better. On Monday, told CNBC's Squawk Box Europe that the G7 showed a unitarian perspective against China. Now, it says Joe Biden spoke in terms of de-risking and not in terms of decoupling. Decoupling was the magic words of the United States still a month ago, but it's very clear that given the role played by the Chinese market for several products, given the level of intertwines among supply chains, it is almost impossible to decouple. Now, de-risking refers to easing some of the dependencies on China rather than totally breaking up the relationship. Basically saying, well, we're not going to stop trading with China. We just don't want to be so reliant on them, so we're going to cut off a little bit and start outsourcing a little bit and everything like that. So we're not dependent on them. I think that's really the scope of this is the countries still want to be able to work with China. They still want to be able to benefit from China's trade, but they do not want to be at a disadvantage because of heavy trade with China. Now it says it should be clear that isolating China will not only on one hand be impossible, but also on the other hand dangerous, is what the analyst had said. The shift from the Biden administration perhaps highlights the realization that it would take a great deal of effort and economic pain to separate its economy from that of China. Figures from the United States Census Bureau showed that the U.S. recorded a trade deficit in goods with China of about $383 billion in 2022. That's not an amount to pay for it. That's not an amount to play with. And guys, you already know it. The United States has essentially ran out of money. That's why this whole debt ceiling thing with Joe Biden is such a big deal, because we've effectively ran out of money to the point where we can't even pay our own bills. We can't even pay our own government employees unless the government, allows us to, access more money, print more money, which hurts the economy even more. So it becomes this kind of, balanced scale type of thing where it's like, we can pay these people, but we're going to go further into debt. I don't know if you want to blame that on Biden. I don't know if you want to blame that on the administration as a whole. I don't know if you want to blame that on the economy, but that's how it's looking. Now, it said the data from last year showed a record high in trade between the nations, and it's evidence of the difficulties of separating their economies. So as much as we can't stand China, we need them. We need them to a degree. Everyone in the world, for the most part, does. Now, G7 leaders went further in expressing their concerns about the situation in the East and South China Seas and in supporting a no change in the status quo of Taiwan. Now, it says there is no legal basis for China's expansive maritime claims in the South China Sea, and we oppose China's militarization activities in the region. As you guys know, China's been pretty much all over Taiwan, which is a ally of the United States. We actually owe them a lot of money for weapons, I believe. This was a video that I covered. At this point, it might have been a few months ago. But there was a time where it seemed like China had effectively, potentially, and allegedly, hit Taiwan with the EMP or something like that. If you guys play Call of Duty, you know what I'm talking about. But essentially something that would cut off, electronics, internet, everything like that. So with the U.S. being the ally and not wanting China to have, much control or power within that entire South Pacific area, the U.S. kind of wanted to step in. And, those conversations came about because of that. So this is like part 2. What's up, man? What you doing? Now, speaking to the CNBC, Naki said, "We are going beyond a unipolar world that had the U.S. as its superpower and entering a bipolar or multipolar world," which I think a lot of people in the United States would deny for years. But now we're finally starting to see the U.S. dollar isn't as strong as it was. Other countries that we're indebted to, they're like, we were okay with accepting all of this debt as long as we were accepting, expensive debt, but with your money losing value every day, now our debt, what we're getting is now less. It's like you owe somebody $100 when it's worth $100, but now that $100 is worth $50 and they want you to borrow more, you'd be like, maybe if I could up that to $200, but if my $50 is now going to turn to $100, maybe I don't want to make that deal anymore, Now it says British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said China was the world's greatest challenge to security and prosperity. The Chinese embassy in London described this as malicious slanders in disregard of the facts, according to Reuters. So very interesting, guys. Very interesting seeing what's going on over here. We're really seeing this play out, and it's very interesting on this channel because we're seeing it almost like a storybook. We're seeing one event happen, how that event affects the next event, how they all line up together and everything. So it's really interesting to see how these G-Summit leaders are effectively handling China now. I do think separation from China and everything like that, of course, would be good for the United States, obviously, because, maybe we'll get some more trade out of it from some of the countries that aren't trying to be as reliant on the Chinese. Maybe that'll strengthen the US dollar a little bit if the Chinese currency, is no longer as strong or they're not involved in trade. So let me know what you guys think about this. If you guys think I got anything wrong or anything like that, or there's just any facts or things that you think people should know about this that definitely throw that in. We love having good civil discourse over here, and it's been great on the channel lately. You guys have really helped me grow, and we're gonna hit 600 soon. So also throw a like, comment, and subscribe if you like this type of content, of course. And guys, it's time to get into the next topic.